We're coming in towards the middle of the month, and we're seeing obviously a huge narrative shift in the last 2 or 3 weeks because of BlackRock and the ETF and this basically infusion of positive sentiment in the space. But what does the data say? Does this mean we're going up, and away from here? Let's jump in the charts, man. So there's a couple key things I want to talk about, especially on a Monday going into the week. We should have a little bit more of a macro look. We're coming in towards the middle of the month, and we're seeing obviously a huge narrative shift in the last 2 or 3 weeks because of because of BlackRock and the ETF and this basically infusion of positive sentiment in the space. But what does the data say? Does this mean we're going up, and away from here? One thing I want to caution everybody about is the fact that institutions now kind of got the stamp of approval from somebody like Larry Fink, especially with the press junket he went on, I think it was last week following the BlackRock spot ETF application. He basically told everybody Bitcoin's okay. So now we're seeing institutions look very, very hard at Bitcoin. And this means, as Tim, and I've pointed this out on the BitLab channel regularly, when retail misses a boat, we miss the boat. When institutions, especially institutions of the size and magnitude like BlackRock, Fidelity, Invesco, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, when they miss a boat, they bring it back, and they have the liquidity to do so, because all of us, unless you're watching this channel, unless you're watching BitLab Academy, unless you're watching Frankie Candles, most of retail gets trapped in trading emotionally. And that's exactly what all these institutions are going to prey on. And so we need to talk about that a little bit. So, and our institution is going to bring the price back one more time before we really launch into the next bullish initiative. Well, looking at this post here from Sentiment, there's over 71,000 coins added for wallets of 10 to 10,000 Bitcoin. So basically the sharks and the whales alike have accumulated about $2.15 billion worth of assets in Bitcoin in the last 3 weeks. Now, this is very important, but what I noticed, which was kind of interesting, 71,000. All right. Well, let's look at this chart. This is, on the one hand, could be bearish. I don't know if there's a correlation or not, because I just saw this about an hour ago. But looking at this chart, we can see miners moving 7,000. Actually, I had it on my another chart from Dylan LeClaire. It's 70,850 coins moved onto exchange. So I'll have to look more into this. I don't know if there's a basically liquidity, over the counter sort of trade that happened there, but that's a pretty almost exact sort of number between the two, because otherwise this would be very potentially a bearish setup for me, because if miners are putting a ton of coins onto exchange, are they looking to take advantage of this huge amount of resistance that we have here? We're going to dive more into that, because we can also see on the charts, this is a chart from Matthew Hyland, we do have some bearish divergence that developed on the weekly that did confirm yesterday. So we need to pay attention to that. Now, on the other hand, retail, the broader market, we're seeing a lot of exchange, a lot of tokens moving off of exchange. So there's still a little bit of uncertainty in market, because this is still illiquidity in the market. So now, coming on to the actual price action of Bitcoin. The interesting thing I want everybody to note here, why are we holding at this level? This is so frustrating. At the end of the day, if we take a measurement tool, we just click shift, click on the chart from here all the way over. This is over 900 days that this range has basically, this has been the equilibrium, this basically support, held support, lost it, got immediate rejection on it. And now change of trend here, we're holding at this level. And this has been a over 900 day level that we're holding at. So does this mean that we're just going to go up and away from here? Well, if it took 900 plus days for us to really find a point where we're finally consolidating at this level. I don't necessarily think it's up and away from here, especially with all the hopium in the market. I am absolutely bullish on the price action here. However, with the caveat of expecting a more likely than not, bit of a liquidity washout to the downside. Now, how do we figure out what that's going to be? The option F from the bottom to the top. We can see some certain levels here. We got right here the 382, which is kind of in line with all this price action here. We've got the 0.5, which is perfectly in line with this previous high here. And we have the golden pocket, which is previous. So any one of these levels, price action coming down to would still be ultimately very bullish. And I do think it's likely. I don't think it's absolute, but I do think it's likely. So we need to pay attention to that and realize that anybody that capitulates in these zones and you sell because you're scared, all you're doing is donating to the corporate bonuses of hedge funds, institutions, and other smarter traders in the space that are taking advantage of that emotional trading. Because I do think that the price action will resolve to the upside. But as it is right now, I think the likelihood of us coming down is higher also because we can see in this more local range. Look at these candle bodies. We have a consecutive lower candle body close here and consecutive lower highs. I do think that this is a bit of a stair step like this. How far down is this stair step going to go? I'm not quite sure. But if we look at the traditional indicators, MACD, RSI, stochastics, look at this. We're having a pretty obvious money flow, money coming out of the market here, and we're sitting right at the zero line. So this is something to watch. This doesn't mean it has to happen. We very well, because of all the bullish sentiment, this could push up, but I would really, really want to urge everybody to watch for basically, a break of not even this level here. Really like a clear break above 32,000 if you are trading to the upside. So just patience here. Everything is setting up for an absolute bullish setup here. So be patient. If we get a washout to the downside, remember it's a further opportunity. So if you haven't yet, come check us out on BitLab Academy. We go live every day, every morning, and get into BitLab Academy courses if you haven't yet. Give me 30 for 30% off. That's all I got.
Great stuff.
I'm bullish, baby.
Hey, good stuff there. And I'm starting to feel a little bit bullish, but that money flow is looking scary, like you said, man. I'm gonna wait for that to kind of turn around or maybe see some reversal before I'm feeling bullish.
Absolutely.